All right, it's Jan 3rd, 2026, and I'm glad to introduce the Internet of Value, which could potentially be the antidote to cronyism. What's cronyism? It's when the state and the market colludes, and so we have to define certain things over here. A few years ago, I was reading Raghuram Rajan's The Third Pillar, and he talks about how the state, the market, leaves the communities behind. So that clearly establishes, three pillars. And from a mathematical or quantifiable standpoint, you can look at state as, the collection of all the GDPs across the globe. That forms the state pillar. And if you accumulate all the stock markets and privately held companies together, including the derivatives and the bonds market, then that makes up the whole market essentially. And so the state totally comes up to like 100 trillion. This is 100x of that. And what's left, the non-profits, the religious institutions, the cooperatives, all these things form this third pillar called the community. And what's happening in the world is essentially cronyism, where the state and the market are colluding at the top, facilitated by consulting companies to a large extent, making this collusion even more legally possible or in a gray area. So, and all this is fundamentally at a transaction level. It's happening through the internet, so we have to really understand what this internet is about, what these transactions that the internet is built on or optimized for. If you go to a browser and then type in a particular website's name, before that there is HTTPS, you would have seen. So that is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And the entire internet is built on this protocol, which makes transfer of text possible, which later became, images, then videos and whatnot. But if you're using ChatGPT or any of the large language model, you would realize the power of text, right? Everything that you built is based on text. You can break it down all the way to zeros and ones and the layers below that. But I'm talking purely at an application layer level. HTTP forms the foundation of the internet. And the next innovation happened when we started adding context to these packets that are transmitting between one end to the other, which is, the receiver and the sender. Now, you think of India's stack, and part of that is UPI, or you think of Bitcoin, Ethereum. These have made value exchange as frictionless as possible. So that's the next layer on top of it. And if you're in India, you would also be, or specifically if you're in Bangalore, you would be used to this app called Nammayatri, which came as a replacement for the Ubers and Olas of the world. And that is powered by a protocol called Beacon. And Beacon is a protocol it's a language of transactions, as they call, but it's essentially restricted to goods and services. So you've seen HTTP, then you're seeing value exchange, which is money movement happening. And on top of that, now you have goods and services are becoming protocols. What we are essentially saying is, on top of that, is a transaction of time. And that's how humans interact, right? Like right now, I'm spending my time to explain something that has come out of a few years of research and um, first person experience of running communities and running well-being experiments, and you are spending your time to listen to this because there is some value to it, or the perception of value to it, right? So the internet of value would make sense now, because if you have a vocabulary for time as how humans interact, then the value can be captured at that level, because that is the most fundamental way in which everything works. So you think of someone who is scrolling through Instagram or YouTube. What's essentially happening is your within your phone, within the app, a new session starts and it tracks when you logged in, what time locally, and what did you scroll through, what was your pupil dilation, and how long did you linger on that particular post, and then you moved on to the next one, right? And till you come out of that app, that whole thing is now put together as a session, and that session now from your phone and the app, it connects to your Wi-Fi router, or if you're directly connected through your mobile data, essentially it ends up in one of these mobile towers, and from there it goes all the way to a server through miles and miles of fiber optic cables, which is transacting this session data in zeros and ones, and it's going into this server. And within this server, then suddenly all these algorithms that machine learning engineers and AI engineers within that app has designed to decide what is the next feed that they want to show you, so that you can continue that session, right? And that app maker will then, their job is to increase the time spent by each individual, so that their average engagement or average usage of the app increases. That gives them a buying power when they negotiate with the marketers. Right? So ads, right? So they essentially make money through ads, and for that they have to show that, hey, these many people are using my platform, and their average session time is this, and within this age range, and whatnot, right? So that's how the market makes money. Now the state comes in, and the state says, hey, you can't keep extracting data, which is time essentially, right, from my country, so you locally store it. So this is where data localization and other things are coming in. And but you then think about how the state itself works. Their entire election campaign is now rage baiting and putting out content that will make more people follow a particular politician. It's not about knowing a particular constituency or the policy level issues that these particular constituents are facing, but it's more about how many followers do I have, how popular am I. It has become a popularity game, and the state is essentially using the same platforms that they're trying to regulate. It's not possible. Then the third, which is when the market and the state are going in this direction, who do we turn to? We turn to, let's say, spirituality or religion, but again, or communities, so to speak. But you look at the rails on which these communities, religious, non-profits, they are built on the same rails. Everyone is optimizing for more time on their app, and there's no way out unless we fundamentally look at this and change the language of time, which is what we are trying to achieve with the Internet of Value. So what is Internet of Value? It is a protocol. From a technology standpoint, it is a protocol, which is a fancy word for a set of rules which involves a bunch of variables and the relationship between those variables, or words. So what are the words on which the internet of value itself is built? So the fundamental layer, we have something called the ValueCapture protocol, where we are trying to capture time. How am I spending time, right? So started at 9:19 p.m. Now it's 9:29. So I would say start time, end time 9:19 to 9:29. It's talking about the internet of value, or introducing the internet of value. And let's say this video could become the proof of work for that particular activity, right? Start time, end time, activity, proof of activity. That's it. 4 words forms value capture. Now this time has to have, what is the fundamental goal of each individual? It is to optimize for our well-being, right? So this time has a personal context which we call as the well-being protocol. And within that, we have 6 different nodes or words, which is physiology, emotions, feelings, thoughts, habits, performance. Why these 6 words? Why not something else? All those things are clearly explained in the coursework and the book. And so value capture, start time, end time, activity, proof of activity. And then the context for this particular time slot is a well-being context, which is given by well-being protocol, which has physiology, emotions, feelings, thoughts, habits, performance. In performance, the moment you log it under performance, performance is something that you're interacting with the world. Physiology, emotions, feelings, thoughts are all internal. Like no one really knows what's happening, what my BMI is, what my body fat percentage is, and whatnot, and what are the neurochemical states that I'm currently in, that is putting all these thoughts into my head. And then the habit of uttering these words into a way that it becomes a performance. Though within the internet of value, we don't want any edits to happen, but still internally the words are being edited, right? Like whether I like it or not, there's a certain way in which the words are sequenced together, and that's forming a sentence, and the sentence together forms a narrative for this video to make sense. So the moment I start interacting with the world, that is a performance that I'm putting forth, right? Remember Shakespeare's words, whole world is a stage, we are all actors. And George Collins says, yes, the whole world is a stage, we are all actors, and if you're born in the US, you get a front row seat to this drama that's happening. And I would say if you're born in India, then you get a middle, like the most optimal way to look at this drama that's unfolding. And Indians have that, so you can see not just the screen, not just the actors on the stage, but also people in front of you, the noises that they make and everything. But then the whole point is, even people who are watching are also actors, right? Sometimes you're here, sometimes you're on the stage, sometimes you're observing and whatnot. Now coming back, so the performance node technically is something that's giving you money or financial freedom to optimize for your well-being. So it is now tagged under a skill, because skill gives you money. So this, for example, within internet of value, the skill that I bring to the table is systems modeling. So I would say within performance, let's say internet of value is the community's name and systems modeling is the skill, and within that I am in earning mode. In the sense, the whole purpose of this video is for me to convince you to buy the book or buy the coursework or get into one of our communities or join and give your time for one of the skill-based communities that we are setting up, right? So there are 3 nodes that acts on top of performance, which is learning, earning, and org building. Okay, so we talked about the words: value capture, start time, end time, activity, proof of activity, and that's getting a well-being context, which is physiology, emotions, feelings, thoughts, habits, performance. And the moment you log it under performance, then it's one of these 3 things: learning, earning, or org building. That's it. These words make up this top layer of protocol that we are talking about, which is giving context to the time. So the moment we capture time like this, then we are essentially guiding the power away from these chronic capitalism that we have created, and probably lead to a better and equitable economy that we want to create. An economic system is totally possible. Now, this has nothing to do with crypto. This has nothing to do with tech. It's purely just words. If you understand the words that I just said, the 15 words that make up the Internet of Value, that's it. From there, we abstract it out, because words can have connotations, right? So in the sense, why are we calling it value capture? Why are we not calling it value created? Why are we calling it physiology? Why not body? Why are we calling it emotion? So all this, things will happen. So there's another layer of abstraction that is possible, which is removing the words and replacing them with symbols. So value capture, you can think of it as like a VC, and well-being protocol, you can think of it as an infinity symbol. And this third layer, where within performance, the learning, earning, and org building, we have termed that as SAOcommons, SAOcommons, sustainable autonomous organizations, and commons because it's a common good that's being created within this community. And that has the symbol, because there is learning, earning, and org building within the community. So think of it like a circle with 3 dots on it. And the 3 dots, in English language, it means therefore. And in Tamil, which is my mother tongue, it means egg or aidelte. And there's a reason why we have named it. But essentially, the symbol itself now has become VC, W, and this infinity symbol, which is W I meant, and then the SAOcommons symbol, which is a circle with 3 dots on it. Then, can we figure out what is the relationship between these abstracted symbols? If you're able to figure that out, then it becomes mathematics. So the VC equals infinity symbol into the 3 dots surrounded by a circle. Y into, or multiplication and not plus, and y equal to and not any other symbol. That is something that we have explored, and we justify why and how we arrived at it also. And the moment then you have symbols and you want to replace that with variables, because then it becomes easy to digitally represent it. So we replace this infinity with W and this circle with 3 dots as V subscript com, value created, like the common value that is created, and then VC stays the same. So then it becomes VC equals W Vcom. That is a fundamental math. That is the fundamental math, because it's able to now create a value for time at an individual level, and also validated by the community. So then Internet of Value now has math, has this protocols, which is a bunch of variables, and words that I talked about and the ideology of reinvigorating these communities so that we as individuals have more say and not just the croniest get to decide how this economic system has to evolve into the future. Do we really have to spend that much money to go to the Mars and like think about a spacefaring civilization? Like, what are we gonna go there and do? Isn't it highly probable that we will create the same system over there if we don't fix ourselves over here? And a lot of us would think like that, right? But we don't have that financial power to make this decision. But now we have this. Fundamentally, we can take back the power by valuing our time. Because if we don't value our time, then our time will be priced in terms of salaries, in terms of abstracted products and goods that are coming to us. This is all abstracted versions of time, right? So I really believe that this has the potential to create this new economic system which could be equitable. But again, so just because we start doing this and we create this new economic institutions called communities, it can't stand on its own, right? We still have to be of service. The highest value that a person can create is gonna come from how this community is gonna now serve the state and serve the market. So we are not talking about some, creating a new economic zone and within which we will do all these things. No. It's here, right here, wherever you are, this can be implemented, and the market and the state will derive services from these communities that we are creating. And it also doesn't mean that you stop working somewhere either for the state or for the market, right? So it is imbibed into the ecosystem. I think that's what makes it powerful, because we're not creating this parallel economy, right? It's imbibed into the existing economy. All we are saying is, hey, don't collude at the top. A state is supposed to do certain things, you do that. And a market is supposed to do certain things, you do that, right? And who's gonna have this vigil? Who's gonna make them do what they're supposed to do is the community. Right now, this community relies on arms from either from the market in terms of corporate social responsibility or some kind of grants from the state. That's why these communities are not able to stand up against these guys. So a community has to stand on its own. It has to have its own economic model of really valuing what is the worth of this community, and it has to be much more efficient than a startup. We can be efficient than a state, easy. But can we be much more efficient? When I say much more, it has to be at an order of 10, 200 than a startup. Only then a community can really become, a skill-based community can really become an economic institution of its own. Right. So, just to recap, the internet of value is a human readable and executable or actionable, a human readable and actionable rule set or hierarchy of rules, because ValueCapture, well-being, SAOcommons. It's only at this layer level it works. So it's a hierarchy of rules that optimizes for individual well-being, because the time's first context that we are giving to the time is individual well-being. That optimizes for individual well-being through or by invigorating skill-based communities. That's it. So that's the tagline for Internet of Value. And today is Jan 3rd and it's 9:44. And I'm glad and humbled to present this to the world. Thank you for your time. And I hope to see you inside the Internet of Value.